Hello! Today I'm going to talk a bit about lore. Now that we've obtained a couple of great souls and made some real progress on our nebulous quest to do a thing, the game's writers will now start throwing a lot more references to the first game at us. Some of them might even make sense. The lore for today is Dark Souls the First, a brief recap for anyone who has forgotten or doesn't want to play through a 60-hour game in order to understand this game. Be aware that there will be spoilers for the first game in this video. So if you want to experience it for yourself, please go do that. It's a great game. So, to begin with. At the very beginning of time, maybe even before time existed, the world was unformed, covered in a mist with little but grey crags, arched trees, and everlasting dragons. The dragons possess stone scales of immortality, granting them the title of everlasting. At some point in this period, something important happened. The first flame came into being. Fire brought great power to the world, but at a price. With fire came disparity. Where there was once simply being, there was now life and death, and light and dark. With the first flame came other beings, not everlasting like the dragons, but ephemeral. In the fires of the first flame, they found the Lord's souls. Souls with power so great they could change the very world. 4 beings claimed the Lord's souls: Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight, Nito, the first of the dead, the Witch of Izalith, and lastly the furtive pygmy, who claimed a soul vastly different from the resplendent Lord's souls. Gwyn, Nito, and the nameless witch brought their immense strength to bear and challenged the dragons for dominance of the world. This conflict is shrouded in mystery, and there is no way of telling now why the 3 lords resorted to violence to settle their differences. We can make inferences, however, and there is one more player in this saga. Seath the Scaleless was an albino dragon born without the stone scales of his kind. Driven both by jealousy and fear of his own inevitable demise, Seath betrayed his people and lent his power to Gwyn. The dragons were defeated and all but exterminated. After this war, the lords built a wondrous land of light and learning that would come to be called Lordran, and Seath was granted dukedom for his invaluable contributions and enduring friendship with Lord Gwyn, who was also granted a fragment of Lord Gwyn's Lord Soul. A great many things happened in Lordran as the years passed, and the lords soon became gods to their people. It would be way beyond the scope of this segment to discuss all of them, however, so let's move on to the most important parts. After some time, Gwyn and his court discovered something alarming. The first flame was waning. Seath buried himself in research to find another answer, most notably the mythical crystals, but became increasingly obsessed with his work and withdrew entirely, more interested in his own immortality than the plight of the world. The Witch of Izalith, who had the closest affinity for fire, attempted to recreate the first flame. She failed and instead created the Bed of Chaos, birthplace of all demons, entirely by mistake. Distracted from the problem of the first flame by the more immediate issue of this experiment gone awry, Gwyn and his knights took up arms and beat the demons back to what remained of Lost Izalith and banished them there indefinitely. Nito was busy taking a very long and satisfying nap at this point in time. Several more calamities befell the realm of the gods, and Lord Gwyn embarked on a journey with his most faithful knights to the kiln of the first flame. Using the still incredible, if somewhat diminished power of his Lord Soul, Gwyn linked the fire and revitalized the first flame, though it was not an unqualified success. Linking the fire caused great devastation and reduced Gwyn from Lord of Sunlight to Lord of Cinder, a hollowed-out husk of his former self trapped for eternity in the kiln. His actions prolonged the Age of Light, but Lordran itself continued to fall into disarray with so many of its leaders lost to flame and darkness. As the centuries passed, humanity became the dominant force in the world, using the same fire as the gods did. However, unlike the gods, humans had a curious vulnerability. The first flame once again began to go out, which created the curse of the undead, which we should be quite familiar with by now. The story of Dark Souls 1 begins with an unassuming undead trapped in an asylum being sent on a journey to Lordran with the vague direction of a royal prophecy, to ring the bells of awakening. After overcoming many challenges, the chosen undead defeats the remaining lords, or what they have become, and reclaims their souls with the Lord vessel. Like Gwyn once did, the chosen undead comes to the kiln of the first flame. After putting the Lord of Cinder to rest, the chosen one is presented with a simple choice: link the flames and prolong the age of fire that much longer, or to reject the ways of the gods entirely and embrace dark undeath. What happened then, none can say for certain. What we do know is that someone succeeded in rekindling the flame, even if it was not necessarily the chosen undead. Many eons have passed since then, and fire is once again waning, and the undead curse has returned to plague mankind. This is, of course, an abridged version of events, but it should suffice to create a reasonable understanding of the events that precipitated Dark Souls 2. Thank you for listening. Next time, we'll probably talk a little bit more about some of the connections between this game and the first.